Hey, Brock. This is Dustin. I'm going to walk you through how to do the indirect effect analysis. So I've got the data file up in SPSS now. The file I happen to be using is the one from back in February where you only had the first class. The reason I'm doing it that way is because the variable we're looking at in terms of intentions to persistent engineering, that variable wasn't available in the senior level class, so I just used this other data file for simplicity. One thing I had found earlier too, if you go over to data view, you can see that I've got a slash out on participant in row 78 here. Something I did back in February was I scanned through the data rather than using those attention checks. This person clearly just put a whole bunch of fake numbers, and so even the others who missed the attention check, it wasn't super obvious whether they were just completely skipping this. With this person, it was. So I didn't change it for this analysis, but this will at least give you a sense of the data we're working with. And if you get different numbers when you retry this later, it could be because you're using slightly different participants, intentionally or not. So before you can do an indirect effect analysis, you have to what we call as center predictors. There's a statistical, sort of a quantitative reason for this, but I think we can probably skip that for now. Just know that you always need to do it for variables that are your key predictor variables. The way you center variables is the first thing you do is you determine the mean of those variables. Here, the only two things I'm centering are the electrical engineering communal score and the electrical engineering agency score. So to get this output, all I did was go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, then Descriptives, then Descriptives, and I pulled over those two variables. So here they give me the mean. Then I created a syntax window. I know you've been doing lots of those. And you can either use the pull-down menus, or you can see the syntax, and I'm happy to share it with you. You can see that what I've done is created a new variable called C_EE communal. I always use that C underscore to help remind me that this is a centered variable. And all it does is take the original variable, EE communal minus 4.0. I did the exact same thing from agency, but minus 4, oops, you can see a typo, 3.7719, and both of those came from the means up here. So if you want to see what that looks like in the menu, you can go to, it doesn't like what I'm doing here. Transform, compute variable. And if I drag this over from my other screen, you can see that I have this. I created a new variable called C_EE_com, and I took the original communal variable minus 4.00. So before you do any indirect effect analyses on your own, make sure that you center your variables. What it's doing is it's moving the mean of the new variable to 0. You can always double check that by asking for the means of the new variables. If I get out of that for a second though, and I open up my outcome, my output window, to do the indirect effect analysis, you go up to Analyze, then under the regression menu, you look for that guy's funny name, right? This is the thing that Jesse thought was hysterical. It says Processed by Andrew F. Hayes and gives his website. Once you pull that up, you open this menu that doesn't look a lot like the other SPSS menus because it has a lot of different options to it. Here I've already pulled over our relevant variables. I thought you'd appreciate me not sort of searching through the menu and double clicking. But you can see that our outcome variable is the intentions to persist. The independent variable is our communal goals or communal affordances. The mediator is our experience of interest. And we're controlling for electrical engineering agency. Remember that the reason we're controlling for agency is so that we can get the effects of communal even after accounting for agency. And this is something that Jesse and I do in a lot of our results, but it shows people that because communal and agency are often correlated, that it's not just agency driving the effects. Okay, so there's a few things to note on this menu. Obviously, you always have to enter your outcome, your X, your independent variable, your mediator, and any covariates you might use. You'll also see this new menu called model number right here. For now, anytime you're doing a mediation analysis, just stick with model number 4. There's a gigantic PDF with all these different model numbers to look at different combinations of moderation, mediation. And honestly, unless you've used the tool a bunch, it's pretty confusing. You can leave the defaults on the Bootstrap samples. All this is how many samples it's going to draw from to create the proper standard errors. You can leave the defaults for the confidence intervals. One thing that you will need to check is under this long names. menu right here. You can see that I've checked this allow long variable names. When this program was originally written, all of your variables had to be 8 characters or shorter. But you can see that some of our variable names are much longer. Instead of redoing the entire program, what they did is created this little add-on that somehow allows long variable names. This is the most common mistake that I make, is I forget to click on this menu and allow variable names, because I'll run the analysis and it'll say it won't run because the variables are too long. And so I know that I've just forgotten how to do this. So you won't need to worry about any of the other menu options unless you get into very different types of analysis. And of course, I am guessing you'll sort of talk to me and Jesse before you do that. So once you've got your variables pulled over, you can just hit OK. And unlike most things in SPSS, the output doesn't pop up right away. The reason is that it's effectively running the analysis 5,000 times to generate different sample errors. This is what we call bootstrapping. But you can see down here in the bottom right of the screen that it's telling us it's running stuff, and eventually the output does appear. This is the identical output that you've seen before that I showed you and Jesse back in February. First of all, it reminds us what model we're using. It reminds us of our sample size and which variables we put where. These outputs that I'm circling here are just regression outputs shown in a different way. But these are the regression or the B coefficients, the standard errors for those coefficients. And then you get the p-values to see which one is statistically significant. This first model is the regression of communal and agentic affordances on experience of interest, which is our mediator. The second model, the outcome, is our Y, so persistence, and we have both experience of interest, communal, and agentic affordances all in this model. The key term that we're looking for in this output is this is this indirect effect of X on Y. If you remember Jesse and I talking about mediation a while ago, we said that there are some outdated methods for testing mediation that were about comparing different effects across models. Now we get much better statistical tests of it. You do not get a p-value, but what you do get is what they call a bootstrapped LLCI, which is lower limit confidence interval, and a bootstrapped upper limit confidence interval. What you want to find out is does this confidence interval exclude, every time I click on it, it does something weird. Does this range right here exclude or include 0? In this case, both numbers are positive, so it excludes 0, and we can determine that with 95% confidence, the indirect effect of communal affordance perceptions on persistence intentions is mediated by experience of interest, and that's all controlling for those agentic affordance perceptions. If this confidence interval did include 0, so one of the numbers was negative and the others was positive, then it would be like a p-value of greater than 0.05. We cannot be 95% sure that indirect effect is significant. Okay, so that's how you do it. Pretty straightforward. Again, you can ignore most of the options, which I think will help. Let me know if you need help as you're going through all this, and we'll figure it out.